Psalm 51. I was pretty hard on David last time. I, 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 I could be wrong, and nobody could say for sure on this, but I think if David were here, he would have said, yeah, I deserve it. When he came to his senses and finally came clean, humbled himself before God and before Nathan, something very important began to happen in his heart. And this autobiographical prayer, um, it, it's the core of that change. Have mercy on me, O God, because of your unfailing love. Because of your great compassion, blot out the stain of my sins. And then verse 2, wash me clean from my guilt. Purify me from my sin. We live in a day where you can buy all kinds of detergents and additives that, and many of them promise to get out any kind of stain. Well, they don't have to live up to that promise, and most of them, in fact, don't. In David's day, when a garment was stained, they didn't have all that. Pretty much had lye soap. There was no such thing as bleach, other than how the sun would bleach things. So when David says, wash me clean from my guilt, he was thinking of what in his experience the washerman did with the garments that he sent. There was no such thing, as dry cleaning, and so the laundry people. Now we're talking about the laundry people for a king. Bear in mind, David was a good guy. Really, he was a good king, and kind and fair, and all the things you would hope a king would be. But he was king, and it wasn't like, he had to treat people any one particular way. No, he could treat people however he wanted to. And if you were the laundry people, you might slough it off for somebody, down on Straight Street, but there is no sloughing off for the king. Okay. Wash me clean from my guilt. This, in my opinion, is maybe the strongest. I wish it were a universal appeal to God from any person. But here's the thing: not everybody wants to be washed clean of their guilt. First of all, not everybody knows they're guilty, and of those who might know they're guilty, they don't really care. And yet I have this sense that until it is fully exterminated, a person's conscience will keep poking. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it shouts. But you can so dull your conscience that it is no longer a factor. This doesn't happen quickly. It's certainly not an event. This is a process that happens over time as you reject the messages of your conscience. Only someone with a secure conscience would ask to be cleansed to be clean from their guilt, because the guilt factor doesn't even come into play without conscience. Now, since I'm the king of bunny trails, I'm going to suggest we think about this bunny trail. First of all, let's think about your conscience and my conscience. You see, our consciences are educated. We have I believe all human beings, unless there is a neurological problem, a brain damage of some kind, we have a basic, primary sense of right or wrong. Now, there are many naturalists and secular anthropologists, sociologists, and psychologists who they disbelieve this. They believe that your sense of right or wrong is fully and completely the result of your societization, your enculturation, how you have been, what society tells you is right or wrong. I don't think they can prove that. Well, they'll tell me that I can't prove that we have this innate sense of right or wrong. Okay. Yeah, but you can't prove the other either. Both have to be somehow accepted in faith. Now, I don't think I have to prove to you that you've got a conscience. I don't even think I have to prove to you that we have this responsibility to educate our conscience. I do think all of us need to be reminded that our conscience gets educated either by our intent toward God's design for life and godliness, or because of the culture around us, the world. I really like the book of Titus. And if you've been with me a long time, we studied through Titus. And one of the things I love is where he says, Paul writes, his divine power has given us everything we need for life and godliness. It teaches us to say yes to righteousness and no to ungodliness. That's pretty gross. Boy, my hair's going crazy there. That's a fairly, no, it's not even fairly. That's a very loose paraphrase. But the point is, God intends for us to say yes. In other words, be intentional about saying yes to and then living within his design, and to say no to things that don't fit in his design. This is a matter of an educated conscience. Now, where do we go to get educated? Let me just tell you some places that I don't think you want to go to get educated, because in my opinion, it's a dead end. The first place I would not go to get educated, in terms of my conscience, is social media. Well, duh. I've done a little experiment here for, just a couple of weeks of not getting on my social media at all. No Facebook. I hardly ever looked at Instagram, and no X, which is, I don't know exactly how all that's going to shake down. Is it a tweet or is it a X something? I don't care. It doesn't matter. I actually have not missed any significant events. by not being on social media. There's, I can keep track of some very important friendships through social media. I'm not saying it's evil or bad. For me, I decided I was spending way too much time scrolling through stuff. There were some fun things and some funny things, and even a few very encouraging things. But I got off of it, and it didn't diminish my life at all. If I was looking for a place to go, a source for educating my conscience, even though some people are going to be able to say, yeah, but look here, I picked, isn't that matters here. What they said is so spot on. Well, yeah, but still, like, that's 0.5%. So I wouldn't go there. I probably wouldn't go to the university to get my conscience educated, but you do realize millions of students have their conscience educated at the university, and most of them don't have any idea that's what's happening. I wouldn't go to celebrities. They're not all horrible, wicked people, but you know what? As a group, they don't have a great track record for living a godly life. Where would I go then? Well, let me tell you where I went. Without knowing it, I went to my parents. They were my first conscience educators. My sense of what was right or wrong was refined by their input. And because of my age, you can guess, some of their input happened to be to my backside. And I don't feel warped because of it. I do think our culture today has evolved to the point that educating a child's conscience, there are various movements in parenting that some of them say, don't just let them figure it out. You just be an encourager. I'm not a fan of that. Partly because I have watched, and I've worked with the children of people who did that. It was almost never. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 out of hundreds. But it just didn't work out. The second thing is, and the bigger thing is, that's not how God parents me. God does not parent me by saying, well, you'll figure it out. I'll just applaud for you over here. No, he says, this is right and this is wrong, which leads me to, and you knew this is it, the source for educating one's conscience is God's Word. This is where we discover His design. We don't always all agree on our interpretation of His design and its application. Yeah, I get that. But at least start there. If you're a parent or a grandparent, this should inform you a little bit on how you act on your role in your kids' and grandkids' lives. You're not Adolf Hitler. You're not Mussolini. You're not a dictator. And you're way not God. But your job is to guide your kids, and when you have them, grandkids, to encounter and understand God's design. Wow. Cleanse me from my guilt. Should have been a lot easier than what I made it. I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.